Hey, mama. So, one platform that has been a game changer for increasing website traffic, growing my email list, and affiliate sales is Pinterest. Pinterest is such an easy platform for business owners to add to their visibility and marketing strategy. I actually have a pin that is blowing up right now. I guess you can call it viral. I don't know, but I wrote a blog on, the 12 best podcasting tools. And I have gotten so many views, so many clicks, so many saves just from this single pin. And it's resulted in affiliate sales. So a lot of the podcasting tools that I recommend in the blog are ones that I am affiliates for. And so I was able to get quite a few affiliate sales and it's still going. And so I really wanted to bring someone on who could really highlight how Pinterest can be used for coaches and service providers. Because a lot of times when we think of Pinterest, we think of, product-based businesses and we think of moms who are searching for recipes and different things like that. When no, Pinterest is the platform for coaches and service providers. So in today's episode, I chat with the Heather Farris about Pinterest for coaches and service providers. Now, if you aren't familiar with Heather, she has her own Pinterest agency. She's pretty big in the online space when it comes to Pinterest. I have literally seen her name everywhere, and she knows her stuff. She shares so many great insights, tips, strategies when it comes to leveraging Pinterest as part of your organic marketing for your online business. And she really talks about how to best leverage the platform to grow your business organically and gives us a lot of inside, scoop to different things when it comes to Pinterest. So I say this a lot on these guest interviews, but I am telling you, grab your notebook and pen. You are going to want to take notes because she shares so many juicy nuggets when it comes to Pinterest. And she has an amazing free resource I highly recommend you download. It's available in the show notes. That's really going to help you get started with Pinterest. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Hey, mama. Are you tired of feeling stressed and overwhelmed trying to grow your online business with your babies at home? You desire more flexibility in your day, allowing you to pour into your family, yourself, and your business without running yourself into the ground. Mama, you can build your dream business and do it in a way that fits your current season of life. And I'm going to show you exactly how. Welcome to the Mama Turned Mompreneur podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Singletary, daughter of the king, wife, mama of two, and life and business coach for mompreneurs. On this podcast, you will learn business strategies made for mamas just like you, who desire to be successful CEOs and fully present mamas without stress or overwhelm. So whether you're an entrepreneur who transitioned to a mompreneur or a mama turned mompreneur, I am here to support you. So grab your coffee, notebook, and pen, put in those earbuds, and let's dig in. All right, today on the Mama Turned Mompreneur podcast, I'm sitting down to chat with Heather Farris, and we are going to be talking about Pinterest for coaches and service providers. So Heather, welcome to the show. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and all about your family.
Thanks, Andrea, for having me. I am in Tucson, Arizona. I live in the desert and I really, really like it here. Before we started, we were chatting about the weather in your area and how it's very similar to where I'm at right now. And I'm so sorry. I like it though. The heat is definitely something to adjust to, but the winters are glorious. Personally, outside of work, we do a lot of hiking. We do a lot of just outdoorsy stuff. And my family consists of myself, my husband, and our two daughters who are 9 and 14. And kind of more grown up kids. They're not grown, but they're not littles either, is where it's at. Honestly, I'm really enjoying this phase of motherhood. And I've been doing this business since both my kids have been born. So it was definitely not something like I didn't have a kid after starting my business. So I feel like I was spoiled a little bit in that because I didn't have to stop running a business in order to have a kid. I feel like a lot of people struggle with introducing more kids into the business. I just had them. They were already here. So that was great. But yeah, I've been doing this for about 8 years. My husband stays home and goes to school full time, and I run my business out of my little office in my driveway. So I love it. It's great. It provides for the family and it gives me something to do.
Yeah, I love what you shared about, when you start your business when you already have kids, because that was my experience too. I actually started my business. My son was 1 and I was pregnant with my daughter. So it was like an extreme sport. And I felt like, if I can do that, I can do anything.
Truly, Andrea, truly,
Yeah.
because being pregnant, I had actually started researching starting a business in 2014. And that was around the time that I got pregnant with my daughter. And I decided after she was born to like literally put it on the back burner for 2 years. So I had bought like books and I'd been listening to podcasts and I had found like blogs and things that I was going to use in order to start my business. And then life happened, a baby came, and I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to try to juggle this. I was just going to continue working my corporate job and get this baby through the first year of her life. Then maybe I'll come back to it when I was ready. I came back to it, and here we are 8 years later with a very successful operation going on. And my neighbors will drive by and be like, "Oh my gosh, your shed's so cute. What are you doing there? Like paint?" And I'm like, if you only knew. You only knew. They call it my she shed. It's far from that.
I love it. Oh, that's awesome. So talk to us about Pinterest for coaches and service providers. Specifically, how can we use organic Pinterest marketing to increase website traffic and sales?
Yeah. So a lot of service providers, and I'm going to lump them, I'm going to pull them out and put them in a slightly different bucket than coaches, because I see coaches as people who are creating a lot of content. They usually have podcasts or YouTube channels or blogs or whatever, very like lively Instagram accounts. And they are consistently creating content that's going to attract their audience. All of that content that they create is actually really great for Pinterest. Now, service providers, on the other hand, a lot of us are just heads down doing the work day in and day out. And we may not be looking to have a podcast or create a blog or have a YouTube channel. But these days, a lot of these service providers are actually creating content on Instagram and TikTok in order to attract an audience through social media. And not even necessarily an audience, but clients. And when I look at these pieces of content, I actually see really great search-friendly content for Pinterest as well. So the way that I foresee coaches and service providers using Pinterest is creating your customer journey. You've probably already done that for your socials or whatever other, content creation platform you're creating on. But then like taking a step back and seeing exactly how people are searching for that content. How would people find that content if they were to go to Google and search for it? So an example would be like a website designer. Like a show it website designer is creating really beautiful websites and she's putting these in her portfolio. Those portfolio landing pages on your website can be Pinterest pins. You can create Pinterest pins and drive traffic to those portfolio options. A lot of these designers are also creating blog posts that showcase before and after. Those are really great Pinterest pins. So even if you're not creating a ton of long form content, you're creating short form content, that short, snappy, like website mistakes, how to create an about page, how to create your own website links page, like all of those things are things people are searching for. And if you just sit down and think about how people would look for those on Google and apply that to Pinterest, you're in business. Like you're off in the right direction.
That is amazing. I have a follow-up question. So like how you were saying for a lot of service providers, they're really leaning into things like Instagram and TikTok. So do you recommend having them create pins that link, to specific pieces of content on Instagram and TikTok?
I actually would recommend against that. And I'm going to tell you how to do it instead. So Pinterest actually just released and rolled out because they're trying to court creators like mad right now. So they just rolled out a new feature to integrate your Instagram into your Pinterest. So when you post on Instagram, it will auto post to your Pinterest account. What I would tell those folks to do, and if you're creating on TikTok first, it's going to be the same thing, except you're going to have to download your content. So maybe you want to use a tool like Repurpose.io or Snaptick or something like that. But what I would say to do is take that content and figure out how people are searching for it. You're going to look for those keywords on Pinterest and you're going to write a nice pin title and pin description. Then when that content imports to Pinterest, if you're doing the Instagram route, you're going to change the link to a website link on your website because we don't want to link people. If they watch a short form 60-second video on Pinterest, it's going to link back to that same exact Instagram reel or carousel on Instagram. So if they've consumed it once on Pinterest, why would they want to consume it again on Instagram? So let's change the link to where they can take it further. So if it's a reel about how to create your own website links page for Instagram, let's link that to your blog post on how to do that. That also sells a template from your library of products. And now you've got people one step further into the customer journey, into their purchase decision.
I love that because I did hear about how Pinterest rolled that out where you can auto post like your Instagram content to Pinterest. And I haven't really heard a lot of talk about it, but I love how you broke that down where it's like get people back to your website and really thinking about that customer journey and everything. And so that is I absolutely love it. Like that's so genius.
I was going to say, we don't want to give all of our good traffic driving ability to Instagram. Like Pinterest is meant to drive traffic to your website. So if you can capture the traffic yourself, again, the links page is a perfect example because most people are using third-party link tools. Maybe not most people these days, but 5 years ago, the majority of people were using Linktree. And you're giving all of that traffic to Linktree instead of your own website. So let's recapture that. The same thought process applies with that auto import from Instagram. Let's recapture that and send them down the funnel even further. Let's not make it hard for them to figure out how to get to your website because Instagram, they don't want people to leave the platform, but Pinterest, they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know one question that comes up a lot, especially for like coaches and service providers who want to start using Pinterest is, how often should they pin to see results? Like, what is your recommendation for that?
So the less you pin, the longer it's going to take. The more you pin, the faster it's going to take. That's just the same philosophy for Instagram. The more you post, probably the more reach you're going to get. It's just the nature of all of these platforms. Now, the way that I see Pinterest and the way that I like to think differently and coach people to think differently about Pinterest is that Pinterest is a platform you can park your content on and people can continue to find it. Whereas on Instagram, you are posting content, it's just getting buried. And then after 24 hours on your stories, it's going away. Unless something goes viral, you're not going to continue just to see views on all of that content. So thinking about it from that perspective, I actually want you to just think about what is sustainable for you and your business. If you have 2 hours to sit down per month and dedicate to Pinterest, and you already have your keyword research in place, you already have your content prepped and prepared, you know exactly what you want to share, and you already have templates ready to just plug your content into with those keywords, you're actually going to be able to pump out a lot more content in 60 or in 2 hours, what is that? 120 minutes in 2 hours than you would if you didn't have any of that legwork done. So I would encourage people to get their legwork done, do that homework, then sit down and be prepared to create all those pins and then push it out. So if in 2 hours you can create 60 pieces of content, then that's 2 pins a day. And that's great. And then if you also have that component of Instagram importing to your account because you post a ton on Instagram, then all you have to do is once a week, just pop over and change the links to your website. And that's an extra layer of content going out. If you post once a day, then that's, 90 pins a month that are going out on Pinterest instead of just, let's say, one. So it really comes back to what's sustainable for you, because we're all parents here, we're all moms, and we're busy. We're juggling a lot of things. We're juggling a household, maybe a marriage, lots of friendships, hopefully a personal life, being a mom, and then this whole business on top of it. So I want you to think about what's sustainable for you. What's sustainable for me, as 8 years in this business, I'm pretty far along, is one pin a day if I'm lucky, and my team makes them. But not everyone has a team. So think about that for yourself.
I love that. And I had talked to someone else about Pinterest and everything, and she gave that same advice as you did about, instead of sitting down to create new pins each week, dedicating a couple hours a month after you've already created the content and everything, and then going in and doing the pins and scheduling them and everything. So I'm definitely going to take that advice because I've been doing it where each new podcast episode, each new blog each week, I'm going in as part of my workflow and creating the pins there. But I know that if I just have dedicated, like you said, 2 hours a month where I just focus solely on creating pins for content that's already created, I can definitely do way more pins. So I love that advice.
Bonus is the way that Pinterest works is that you don't actually need to have your makeup done. You don't have to find trending music or anything like that. And it's really behind the scenes. So you can turn on your favorite TV show, you can light a candle, you can have a snack, and you can just sit at your computer and just make pins and schedule them.
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about anything else. Maybe the kids asking for a snack too, but that's it.
Yes. So I know you touched on this a little bit about really creating a customer journey using Pinterest, but can you walk us through your process for that? What does it look like? What all does it entail?
It's really keyword centric. So when I create a customer journey for Pinterest, I'm thinking about exactly how my customers are finding me depending on their pain points and where they're at in the journey. So if someone comes to me and they don't have a Pinterest account, I know they're all the way back at the beginning of the customer journey of how do I even use Pinterest for my business? So I'm mapping them into the phases of a customer journey based on where they're at in their business. I would tell you to do the same thing. And then you're doing keyword research for each of those phases. So you've probably heard of problem aware and solution aware keywords. I touch on and talk deeply in my paid membership community about the phases of a customer journey and finding keywords for consideration, awareness, and product. So finding keywords along the customer journey for each thing that you want people to find in your business. So if it's how to start a podcast, how to manage your podcast, how to create content for your podcast, how to market your podcast, that's 4 different really detailed sections of a podcast marketing strategy. So with each of those phases, you're going to create awareness, consideration, product-based keywords for each. And then you're going to create content for each. You're doing that. I'm doing that. And then all of those things end up becoming Pinterest boards. So how this comes to fruition on Pinterest is first we take all that keyword research for our customer journey and we determine how people are finding us and we make Pinterest boards out of it. So mine looks like organic Pinterest marketing, paid Pinterest marketing, automation, and graphic design. So if you go to my Pinterest profile, you're going to notice 1 to 2, maybe even 3 different boards on each of those topics based on what people need. And then within each of those boards, now I'm populating all of this content that I'm creating for that particular bucket of content. I'm creating pins for those topics. And all of that starts with your keyword research journey. And you can do keyword research very simply on Pinterest. There's not a third-party tool that I know of that is API approved. So really it's the search bar on Pinterest, it's the trends tool, or the ads manager keyword tool. Those are the 3 main ways to find keywords. Use those 3 options to start to populate all of those keywords that you need. And then you're going to use all of those keywords, obviously, in your boards. So your board and board title, board description, in your profile, so your display name and your bio, and then in your Pinterest pins, so your text overlay on your pin title, and your pin description. And that's it. That's where you use all your keywords. and you begin putting all of your content in pin format and publishing them to your boards. That sounds really simplified, but that's it.
That is very simple. And it's a really good strategy. I really love how you broke that down, especially with the boards, like thinking of it, like you said, related to like the customer journey and essentially like what questions your ideal clients are asking related to what it is that you do and everything. I think that like going into that, you're good to go. You know what to do and everything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I really like that breakdown. Is there anything else that you can add related to that, like as far as creating a SEO strategy for Pinterest to like really help with getting found on the platform?
This is one of my little hero tips that I like to give. And most people are not in a seasonal style business, but there are a lot more things coming into the Pinterest Trends tool that are not necessarily seasonal. Like there's a ton of Canva style keywords in there, and those really aren't seasonal. Like seasonal for me is like Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Mother's Day, like very like timely. You see the graph go up and you see the graph go down. Um, but there's a lot more evergreen keywords starting to populate in the trends tool as well. So really, if you want to learn this methodology, I have a YouTube video on my channel. I talk all about it, but just go into the trends tool and do your keyword research there. And you can actually do it a lot faster, especially if you do find a lot of keywords in there related to your topic. One of the topics I found recently that had a ton of keywords I was shocked by is actually the illustration and like design space. So I have a client that does a lot of logos. They do a lot of graphic design stuff. They do a lot of branding. And there were a ton of keywords in there for that. And there are a lot of service providers offering that. So go in and like mass export all of those keywords into lists that you can manipulate in a Google Sheet. And it'll take you a lot less time to do your keyword research that way because you're like exporting in batches instead of having to find like one keyword here and one keyword there. So more of a tactical tip than a strategic tip, but could speed you along depending on what niche you're in.
Definitely. So I once heard on a podcast that it's recommended to schedule your pins directly on the Pinterest platform instead of using like a scheduler. And I was curious what your thoughts are on that.
So I would love to spoil something that I'm working on behind the scenes, but unfortunately I signed an NDA, so I can't spoil it. But what I will tell you is that Pinterest doesn't care. There is some exception to this, though. So, yes, the native scheduler is obviously there for you for free. And if you are new in business, you should absolutely not spend money on a Pinterest scheduler and you should just use the free version. There's also another version that you're probably already paying for and you don't even realize, and that's the Canva content planner. You can schedule your pins to Pinterest right in Canva. Now, here's what I will say. There are exceptions. You are not to use a non-API approved tool. So do not use a tool that is not API approved. The only way you're going to know if they're API approved is if you ask them, and hopefully they tell you the truth. But also, I have an entire blog post and YouTube playlist on all of my favorite API approved and Pinterest partner scheduler tools. So as long as they have a partnership with Pinterest in some way, you're good to use a third-party scheduling tool. Pinterest does not care. Now, I'm testing this again, and I will say scheduling video through scheduler tools does tend to degrade the quality of the video. So I do like to schedule those directly on Pinterest. I'm testing it again to schedule videos through third-party scheduling tools because I got some pushback from one tool, and I just said, you know what, I'll just test it again and we'll just see what happens. But generally speaking, if I schedule through a tool, their server compresses the file and it makes it look pixely. And clients don't want that. So I just default to the Pinterest native scheduler for all my videos. And if you do want to use a scheduling tool because that's what's easiest for you, do it because Pinterest quite literally doesn't care.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
That was a really long answer. I'm sorry.
No, but it's very helpful, very helpful. So you have a Pinterest strategy guide and workflow resource for the listeners. So tell us a little bit about that and why we should download it.
Yeah, so my strategy guide's been downloaded thousands of times. Honestly, it's my second opt-in I ever created in the business, and it's like a Pinterest strategy in a PDF. So I tell you exactly how the platform works, all the pieces of a Pinterest strategy, and like implementing those. And then I also give you just like a sample workflow of how you could run this weekly, monthly, and I think quarterly. I update it every single year to current Pinterest standards and best practices. So it's the beginning of it's like a mini Pinterest course, but in a PDF. And it's the beginning of your Pinterest strategy. It will explain everything. You don't need to buy anything to get started. You can just look at the guide, implement what's in there. And then there's also free resources that are linked. So like all my YouTube videos that go to specific things. I'm a creator that just gives everything away. So on my YouTube channel, all those resources linked in the guide, it's exactly how you need to do the thing. So I teach you how to find keywords. I teach you how to write pin titles. All that stuff is all linked for you. So it's all there. That's why you should download it. So you're not going to go searching all over the internet. It's all there.
I love that. Definitely, you guys download it, especially if you've been looking to get started with Pinterest. I mean, Heather's already given you so much value in this episode alone. So I can only imagine what all you're going to get with that resource.
Well, thanks, Andrea.
You're welcome. So one question I love to ask that's nothing related to the overall topic of the episode is, who is one coach or mentor who has had a major impact on your journey as an entrepreneur?
It's actually someone that you would probably deem to be a competitor of mine, and it's Kate All. She's been like the shining beacon on the hill for like Pinterest managers for so long. I consumed a lot of her content earlier on in my business when I was just first learning Pinterest. She's about 2 years ahead of me in business, but she's like 10 years ahead of me in like production quality and like value and everything that she brings to people. And she's just like someone I look up to as like something I can reach for. And she's just a really great woman, like, and her life story and her family story and everything are just fantastic. So yeah, it's Kate.
Oh, I love that. So as we wrap up, please let listeners know where they can connect with you and learn more about your services.
It's just heatherfarris.com, and it's FARRIS. Everything is there: social media, paid programs, paid services, all my free content. Everything is there. Come visit me on the internet and let's be friends.
All right. Well, I will make sure to link all of that in the show notes. Well, thank you again, Heather, for just sharing your wisdom and expertise when it comes to Pinterest. I definitely learned a lot myself, and I'm going to implement a lot of the things that you shared. And I know the listeners will greatly get a lot out of this too.
Thanks, Andrea, for having me today.
No problem. Well, Mama, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to hang with me. If you enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a favor and follow the podcast and leave a review? Hitting that follow button and sharing your thoughts about the podcast are the best ways to ensure that other mamas like you find this show. Your review also lets me know if you're enjoying this podcast, so make sure to share your thoughts before you go. All right, Mama, I'll catch you in the next episode.